The opening sound. Iron chains grinding. Rails groaning. Under the weight of tons of armored steel, the ground trembles. The wind howls through the Owl Mountain Pass, carrying the bone-chilling cold of a dying empire. The clashing sound of metal on metal rings out, echoing off the grey cliffs. The air is thick with the smell of machine oil and fear. Poland. May 1945. Bloodstained snow. Red patches mottled against the pure white backdrop of the Lower Silesia region. To the east, the Red Army's artillery roars. The world shakes with every thrum of shell fire. Breslau has fallen. Pitch black smoke hides the sun. The Third Reich is disintegrating into ashes. In the death throes of war, the darkest secrets begin to move. Amidst that chaos, a ghost appears. At a blockaded subway station, a massive steam locomotive exhales clouds of gray smoke. Pistons push. Flywheels spin. The armored train sets off in silence. Destination, unknown. Journey, one way into the depths of the earth. It does not carry the wounded. It does not carry reinforcements. It carries ambition and despair. Burning pure gold. 300 tons of precious metal cast into bars. Oak crates filled with looted jewelry from across Europe. Artworks by the great masters. And more importantly, the black files. Folders stamped top secret belonging to the SS forces. Lists, plans, truths that could incinerate the entire post-war world. The train moves sullenly into the Sudete Mountains. Fog surrounds it. Ancient pine trees stand motionless like silent sentries. Cold steel strikes granite. Darkness swallows it whole. The train moves deep into the heart of the mountain, where the tunnel system of Project Riese waits with an open mouth like a gargantuan tomb. A whistle blows. Piercing. Desperate. It tears through the mist, echoing off the granite cliffs before dying out in the valley. Silence envelopes everything. The train enters the tunnel but never emerges. Not a trace. Not a single radio signal. It vanishes from reality, dissolving into the void of history. From that moment on, the train becomes a ghost. An armored curse lying deep within the Polish earth. It waits in the darkness. The truth is buried. And Hitler's treasure begins its second life, a bloody legend. Beneath the old pines of Lower Silesia, a monster of concrete and steel is taking shape. Year 1943. The Third Reich begins to crack. In the east, the Red Army roars. In the west, the Berlin sky burns under a carpet of Allied bombs. But here, in the heart of the Sudete Mountains, the sound of drills still grinds into hard rock. Blasts from dynamite still shake ancient roots. Hitler gives the order. A top-secret command. A project codenamed Riese. In German, it means the giant. A name fitting for the madness of its instigator. Albert Speer manages it. The architect of the devil. The one who turns the Führer's delusions into eternal blocks of concrete. Records show, 150 million Reichsmarks approved. A staggering sum as the empire draws its final breaths. Slave labor. Pouring in. The Gross-Rosen concentration camp expands. Thousands of human beings are cast into dark pits. They are not workers. They are ghosts. Death stalks them. Hunger gnaws. Disease runs rampant. Granite rock has no compassion. Mass graves rise faster than the tunnels themselves. Every square meter of concrete floor is built with white bones. Haunting statistics. Manifesting. 7 massive tunnel systems, Bulidars, Osauka, Rtschska, Ugo Weiss, Soban, Gontoa, and beneath Casia's castle. Total floor area exceeds 28,000 square meters. Total length spanning dozens of miles. Halls as high as cathedrals. Vertical shafts piercing straight to the mountain peaks. Challenging engineering. No complete blueprints survived. Only cold numbers remain regarding the volume of concrete poured, more than the amount used to build the entire civilian bunker system for Germany in 1944. The purpose? The question hangs suspended in air thick with the smell of sulfur. Underground headquarters. A second wolf's lair, stronger, deeper, where Hitler could command the war from beneath the earth. Weapons factories. Where maddened minds crafted V-2 rockets or Die Glock the mysterious bell. Or a vault. A gargantuan bunker to store what remained of the Third Reich before nightfall. Gold. Art. Secrets that could buy the future. Traces left behind. When the Russians were only miles away, the drills stopped. Files burned. Blueprints turned to ash in hurried fireplaces. Concrete hardens. Squared, gray blocks stand solitary in the deep forest like relics of a brutal civilization. Steel doors. Blown apart. The Nazis did not want anyone to see what they had built. They used explosives to collapse the entrances. They buried the secrets along with the last prisoners. Investigation. An existing absurdity. Why? Why in the final months of the war, when tanks lacked fuel and soldiers lacked ammunition, did Hitler pour millions of tons of steel and cement into the heart of Owl Mountain? Resources drained from vital fronts to serve an unfinished project. Madness. Or a terrifying contingency plan. What are they hiding? A weapon of mass destruction not yet perfected? Or were they building an escape route? Tunnels with no exit. Rails ending at cliff faces. The legend begins. People speak of trains that enter the mountain and never return. They speak of Kilometer 65. They didn't just hide gold. They hid the truth. A bleeding truth. Project Riese is more than just an architectural feat, it is a tomb. A symbol of arrogance and extreme cruelty. The granite walls remain silent. They have witnessed everything. The screams. The commands. And the sound of armored train tracks rolling into the void. The Nazis hid a treasure. But they also hid a monster. And that monster still sleeps peacefully beneath the earth and rock of Walbrzich. Waiting for someone reckless enough to wake it? Waiting for a day when the darkness is forced to speak. The gunfire ceases. The swastika flags are lowered, replaced by the red of the Red Army and the white and red of Poland. The Third Reich collapses, dragging horrific secrets down into the grave of history. Files are sealed. Key witnesses are executed or disappear. The world wants to forget the nightmare. But the rumors do not die. They live on, persistent like the moss growing in dark bunkers. After the war, the Walbrzich region welcomes new residents, Polish miners from the east. They take over the mines the Germans left behind. In cheap taverns, over glasses of pungent vodka, the stories begin to trickle out. They tell of armored trains quietly leaving Breslau station on moonless nights. They tell of SS officers standing guard at tunnel entrances not found on civilian maps. An old miner swore he saw a long train enter the heart of Owl Mountain, but when he returned the next morning, the tracks had been removed and the entrance collapsed with explosives. Yet the communist Polish government chooses silence. They collect these testimonies, stamp them secret, and file them away in the Ministry of Interior archives. To them, Nazi treasure is a sensitive subject, something that could attract unwanted attention from Moscow or bounty hunters from the West. Truth is locked behind the iron doors of the security service. The 1970s. The height of Cold War tension. The Polish government is desperate for foreign currency. Old reports are revisited. A special unit within the Polish Secret Service is formed. The sole objective, find Hitler's gold to salvage the stagnating economy. The mission codename, Gold. They use the crude tracking devices of that era. They penetrate the deepest recesses of Project Riese. At the Olidar system, they find air vents ingeniously sealed with reinforced concrete. Explosives experts are called in. They expect to see crates of gold stacked to the ceiling. Instead of gold, they find booby traps. Thin steel wires connected to blocks of black explosives. Ready to send any curious soul to hell. And beneath the thick dust of time are corpses. Not soldiers' bodies. These are the remains of slave laborers, still wearing tattered striped uniforms. They were shot in the back of the neck, the signature execution method of the Gestapo. They were not allowed to leave. They were materials used to seal the secrets. The Secret Service retreats in horror. The gold mission files are sealed forever with a note, dangerous. No economic value. 40 years pass. The world has forgotten. Until 2015. In a hospital in Germany, an old man is dying. He is a former SS soldier, one of the last survivors from the division stationed in Lower Silesia in 1945. Before drawing his last breath, the burden of the secret becomes too great. He calls his grandson over, presenting a hand-drawn map on yellowed, brittle paper. His trembling finger points to a spot on the railway line between Wrocław and Wałbrzych. It is there, he whispers. Kilometer 65. We drove it into the heart of the mountain. It must never be allowed to see the sunlight again. This confession is the match that reignites the global gold fever. Kilometer 65 is no longer an anonymous landmark. It becomes the coordinates of hope and madness. The investigation begins to ask sharper questions. Would a massive armored train be used simply to carry gold? Precious metals could have been transported by truck or plane much more easily. Why build a fortified tunnel system, capable of withstanding even atomic bombs, just to hide money? Leaked secret documents from SS archives hint at a different goal, Wunderwaffe. Wonder weapons. Blueprints for Die Glock, the mysterious bell, frequently appear alongside reports on Project Riese. But the truth may be even darker. Instead of gold and silver, the train might carry the Third Reich's top mines along with horrific experimental specimens. Things the Nazis hoped would help them negotiate with the Allies, or prepare for a retaliation from beneath the earth. Yet Kilometer 65 keeps its mouth shut. Ground-penetrating radar shows large anomalies, massive metallic masses lying deep beneath layers of earth and rock. They have the shape of train cars. They have the breadth of history. Instead of providing answers, the search only opens more labyrinths. The gold train is not just a treasure. It is a missing link in the dark history of humanity. A time machine carrying unforgivable crimes and cursed technologies. The war ended long ago. But in Walbrzych, the darkness is still waiting. It waits for one brave enough to dig up the truth, or one foolish enough to repeat history. The truth lies at Kilometer 65. But the price to touch it? Perhaps none of us want to pay. August 2015. A spark falls into the powder keg. The world was sleeping through dull financial news when suddenly, a tremor erupted from Walbrzych, a grey industrial city in Poland. Two men. Piotr Koper, a local builder. Andreas Richter, a German treasure hunter. A strange Polish-German alliance. They do not bring tavern legends. They bring evidence. Ground-penetrating radar. Black and white prints. Shimmering streaks on a digital screen. They claim to have found the gold train. Not in fantasy. But right here. Underground. At Kilometer 65 of the Wrocław-Walbrzych railway line. The news breaks. Virus. It doesn't spread through the air, it spreads through fiber optics. Global click-through rates peak. From the BBC and CNN to Al Jazeera, all lenses are pointed at a stretch of rusted track. A poor mining town suddenly becomes the center of the universe. The name Nazi Gold Train becomes the most searched keyword on the planet. Greed. History's game of hide and seek. The deadly romance of the Third Reich. It all blends into an addictive cocktail. People aren't just reading news, they are starting to book plane tickets. Walbrzych is besieged by reporters, self-proclaimed explorers, and the curious. The Polish government cannot ignore it. This is no longer just about two treasure hunters. This is a matter of national security. The military mobilizes. Soldiers from the engineering corps. Armored vehicles move sullenly toward the forest edge. Mine detectors. Chemical sensors. Search dogs. Why? Because if that train exists, it isn't protected by a lock. It is protected by death. Sarin gas. Self-activating mines after 70 years. Biological pathogens frozen in the dark. The military establishes a no-fly zone. Barbed wire fences rise around Kilometer 65. The roar of helicopters fills the sky over the Ural Mountains. The air is thick with the smell of diesel and extreme tension. Every step taken by the engineers on the gravel and rock carries the weight of a time bomb. At the center of the chaos is the radar image. It doesn't know how to lie, but it knows how to puzzle. An object 100 meters long. Cylindrical. Having armored turrets. It lies 8 meters deep beneath a railway embankment. Geological experts look at the map and hold their breath. At Kilometer 65, there is an anomaly in the rock and soil density that no natural law can explain. It is a man-made underground vault. A space filled with metal. 100 meters of a ghost. 8 meters separating reality from myth. A distance close enough to touch, but deep enough to hide an earth-shattering secret. But the treasure never belongs only to the one who finds it. The vultures appear. International organizations begin to intervene. Lawyers from around the world file lawsuits. If there is gold, Whose is it? The Polish state? Germany? Or the victims who were plundered? Holocaust survivors speak out. To them, the train is not an adventure. It is evidence of a crime. It carries the blood of those who fell in the concentration camps. Every gold bar on that train could be cast from gold teeth, jewelry, and the property of those massacred. An ethical demand weighs heavily on the drills. Truth must be accompanied by justice. Meanwhile, amateur treasure hunters flock to Walbrzych like a real pack of vultures. They bring shovels, cheap metal detectors, and even drones flying stealthily past military fences. They dig in the forest, defying danger from booby traps or deep sinkholes. Gold fever has turned reason into ash. August 2016. 1 year after the initial announcement. The excavation project officially begins. Koper and Richter have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from sponsors. Massive excavators roar. Their steel teeth bite into the earth at Kilometer 65. A frantic pace. The sound of machinery drowns out the mountain wind. The crowd outside the fence watches with bated breath as each scoop of earth is lifted. 2 meters. 4 meters. 6 meters. The smell of damp mud rises. The truth is very close. Just one more drill. A touch of steel on steel. The world holds its breath waiting for a clink to ring out from the ground. The sound will confirm that the legend is real. That history is not just old pages, but an armored entity waiting beneath their feet. But Kilometer 65 still keeps a cold face. Thick dust obscures eyes burning with hope. In the darkness of the final meters of earth, what awaits them? A train full of gold, or a black hole of disappointment? The pressure reaches its limit. The clock ticks. The drill sinks deeper. The end of the waiting begins. The roar of excavators tears through the silence of the Lower Silesia forest. Black diesel smoke billows into the sky, mixing with swirling dust. Millions of dollars have been spent. Decades of hope have been wagered. At km 65, the earth is being cut open under the witness of the whole world. Expectations are sky high. People dream of armored train cars shimmering with pure gold. They imagine the moment sunlight touches precious metal after 70 years of imprisonment in darkness. But reality? Reality is a cold blade, ready to pierce through the bubble of illusion. Day 1. The first drill plunges down. The crowd of reporters holds their breath. Koper and Richter stand there, eyes never leaving the mouth of the pit. They believe that in just a few more meters, the sound of steel striking steel will ring out. But no. Only the grumble of engines. The excavator bucket lifts patches of sodden earth. Nothing is seen. Faith is still there, but smiles have begun to feel forced. Day 2. Machinery operates at full capacity. Depth reaches the 6-meter mark. Then 8 meters. This is the coordinate where radar indicated a massive man-made object. However, instead of the armored steel plates of Nazi Germany, what emerges are only gray granite blocks and sticky layers of clay. Sweat pours down the faces of the workers. The air begins to thicken with disappointment. The final meters of earth dug up do not carry the scent of treasure, but the scent of nothingness. km 65 is answering with a cruel silence. Amidst the fever, a scientific report appears like a death sentence for the legend. Professors from the AK University of Science and Technology in Krakow have quietly conducted independent measurements using the most advanced equipment. Their conclusion is brief and devastating: there is no train at all. What Koper and Richter saw on the radar screen was not a machine of war. Those were merely geological anomalies. A natural stone cave formed millions of years ago. Gas pockets and high mineral concentrations in the rock deceived amateur equipment, creating a mirage that looked like a man-made structure. Science speaks, and it has no room for noir fairy tales. The gold train, in the eyes of geologists, is just a ghost created by the interference between greed and flawed radar algorithms. Did Koper and Richter fail? Or were they just victims of a larger game? In Wałbrzych, residents do not accept that simple truth. Conspiracy theories begin to sprout like mushrooms after rain. People whisper that the Polish government secretly moved the treasure during the nights the military blockaded the forest. That oak crates full of gold were loaded onto military trucks before the public excavation began. Or even more terrifying, the train was actually a hoax. A historical trap designed by the Nazis themselves to distract posterity from something more evil lying deep beneath Project Riese. A biological laboratory? A primitive nuclear reactor? Or the entrance to an underground fortress that is still operational? The more we search, the more we fall into our own trap. The contrast between the expectation of a magnificent treasure and the reality of a grey mud pit drives people mad. We would rather believe in a dark conspiracy than accept that history has forgotten us in an empty stone cave. The excavation ends. Machinery withdraws, leaving behind deep scars on the ground at km 65. Koper and Richter leave amidst public ridicule and massive debts. The world also quickly searches for a new scandal to pursue. But not far away, the underground bunkers of Project Riese still stand there. Silent. Cold. Eternal concrete blocks and dark tunnels seem to be mocking mortals. They know the truth. They have seen what went in, and what never came out. We dig through soil and rock, but we cannot dig up the darkness of the past. The gold train may not lie at km 65, but the obsession with it has taken root too deeply in the human mind. In Lower Silesia, fog continues to shroud the Owl mountain peaks, hiding secrets that perhaps are better left resting in nothingness. The fever passes. The excavators leave. The noise of the crowd vanishes into thin air, giving way to the terrifying silence of the Lower Silesia region. km 65 is now just a scar on the ground, a monument to broken hopes. The gold train. Perhaps it is just a legend. A ghost nurtured by insatiable greed and the unsolved mysteries of the Third Reich. It is a mirage woven from the fragmented memories of old soldiers and the desperation of a dying empire. We go looking for gold, but what we find is only dust and nothingness. But the obsession with it? That obsession is real. It exists in every chill emanating from the ground. The deadly tunnels at Project Riese are real. Eternal concrete blocks soaked in the blood and tears of thousands of prisoners are real. Their existence does not need any drill to confirm. They stand there, like an open wound of history, reminding us of the darkness that humans can create. Gold may not exist. Shimmering metal bars may just be a fairy tale for sleepwalkers. But the darkness of history is always present. It does not disappear, it only hides. It lies right beneath our feet, creeping through granite crevices, waiting for a moment of vulnerability to be awakened. We try to fill the gaps of the past with numbers and events. History is often written by the victors, those who hold the pen and the light. But the darkness never lies. It does not need recognition. It does not need scientific reports. It simply exists, primal and cruel. In the dim bunkers of WWII, fog still covers the paths with no end. The mournful train whistle still occasionally echoes in the minds of dreamers, those who still press their ears to the ground every night to hear the heartbeat of the past. That train never stopped. It still moves sullenly through the corridors of time, carrying the crimes and secrets that humanity is not yet ready to face. It is still running.